Help me to clean my room.
Shalom. Welcome to Mishpachah. I'm Debbie Good. I have my husband Joe with me today. And Mishpachah is the Hebrew word for family. In this program, we talk about things that we can do together as a family or have learning experiences to learn more about the Torah, about God's Word. Now, for the past couple of times, we've been talking about the season or the festival of Shavuot, the festival of weeks, or the harvest festival, the pilgrimage festival, going to the temple where they would bring the first fruits of their harvests. It's also an anniversary festival where we remember and we commemorate the time when the Torah was given to the nation of Israel. It's a time also we remember the betrothal when Israel became betrothed to God Himself. One of the things we've discussed in past programs is that the book of Ruth is read. As a matter of fact, we had a picture. If I can scoot back just a little bit, you can see we have a lovely picture of the young woman Ruth who is carrying the wheat in her hands. And this just happens to be a micrography, which is a type of picture that uses very, very small text to write out the book. The book of Ruth is read often at Shavuot because of the story of the harvesting. It's also read because of the love story that takes place. And remembering, of course, that Ruth came from a very un-Torah-like society. She was a Moabitess, a very feared and abhorred nation. And not only did she embrace the Torah, embrace God's people, embrace her family, her new family when she went into the land of Israel, but she actually, because of her love and desire, becomes the great-grandmother of King David and thereby earning a place in history as an ancestress of the Messiah. Now, my husband Joe had told me that on one of his trips to Israel, he saw something that was just really very profound, very moving. He was at an Israeli museum, and it just happened to be at the time of Shavuot. And Joe, I'm going to turn things over to you. What is it that you saw that really grabbed your attention?
Well, we had all gotten on the bus, and off the side of the bus, coming from behind the bus, there was this parade.
A parade.
A parade. I'm not talking about with bands or anything, but there were probably 50 or 60 young kids and some adults, and they all were dressed up in biblical style garments. Now, these were Israelis. What I was told is that they were from a kibbutz, and they were all carrying baskets of fruit. They had goats coming with them. They had cows walking right there through Jerusalem.
Musical instruments,
yeah, they
maybe?
had like flutes and things like that. But they were doing what was done at the festival of Shavuot. This was one of the pilgrimage festivals, and the people were instructed to bring their first fruits of the seven species, the Shiva Minim, up to the temple. And there was a special ceremony with this. Now, we can't do that today because we don't have a temple.
That's right. And of course, we do not offer sacrificial animals.
That's right.
And we don't even live in the land, so we don't bring our first fruits to the temple. So most of what we do during the season of Shavuot is going to be commemorative, or we're going
It's a zecher.
Yes, it's a remembrance. That's right. We're going to learn about it and remember and dedicate some portion of our lives to that. Now, one of the things we've talked about in the past is some of the customs that are associated with Shavuot, and that would be, for example, eating dairy foods. And by the way, last time we made this wonderful cheesecake. Most people,
good.
It was good.
It was good.
And a lot of people will make blintzes. This is a type of it's almost like a crepe that, and we had done this in the program about a year ago. You make this crepe and put maybe a cheese type filling, very, very sweet. And so the foods that are usually associated with Shavuot are going to be any of the seven species, which we'll get to in a moment. Dairy foods, which remind us of the richness of the milk of the land, and also they remind us of the milk of the Word.
That's right.
That's right. They remind us of Torah. And then also things having honey. Again, the land flowing with milk and honey, but also the sweetness in studying God's Word.
Can I mention something, Debbie?
Absolutely.
You mentioned the crepes that you did a year ago. If somebody wanted to go back and get the recipe for that, they could go to our website. I know that particular one is up on the website. And or if there's another recipe that comes along that you've done it in the past and we don't have it on the website, if you write to us,
And
we'll see that it gets there.
sometimes the recipe is here, but they could even contact the station here and finding out how they can receive that program if they want to
Or
see
our
how
office.
the blintzes.
We have the programs
you know,
in our
how,
office.
How the blintzes are made. It was really a neat program, and I enjoyed it. I hated not doing it this year, but we wanted to do a cheesecake. And we've been also emphasizing some things we can do in the home. Now, this is a good time for me to bring up that Mishpachah is a Hebrew name. It's a Hebrew word that means family. And one of the things we do in this program is not only things for the family to do, but we discuss things about our Hebraic heritage, our Jewish roots, if you will. But one thing I don't want to do is have people run out and do a bunch of Jewish customs or ethnically, Jewishly correct things, because this isn't a Jewish show. This is a biblical show. It's where we learn things about the Bible and how we begin to embrace all things that have been written in the Bible, not just the things that were written a couple thousand years ago, but where we learn all about, going way back to the very beginning of time. And so sometimes we're not going to do things that are done in a Jewish home, but we might do things that remind us about what perhaps a Jewish family would do. And the reason is not because we're trying to elevate Jewish culture or society in any way. It's because the Jews have been the guardians and the protector of the Torah, of the law, for so many years, and they have incorporated their learning experiences into their home activities. And since they've done such a good job of it, sometimes it's good for us to follow their example and do some of the things they've done.
Well, like this parade that I saw, the Shavuot, what better way to teach your children about bringing the first fruits to God and about these 7 different fruits, and they can study them and whatever. But,
now, it might be a little
an experience.
It might be a little impractical for some families to have a parade, but what they might do, for example, there are study groups out there who might form a processional. This is a smaller version of the parade I think you were talking about, but to reenact the whole ceremony. And you had begun to talk about this a little bit last time. We talked about the town square that's in the small villages, and the elder who comes up to the town and he says,
okay. What we had talked about that Israel was divided by King Solomon into 24 different districts. And kind of, if you picture a district like a county, and you have a county seat. So you have one town that's going to be somewhere in this district that everybody goes to. And in that town, they have a square. Now, there's one guy.
The Old Town Square.
The Old Town Square. And everybody is going to Jerusalem for the festival. They're all around the outside of this square. This one man, he's called the Menune. Okay, Menune. And he comes into the middle, and what he says, it's found in Jeremiah chapter 31, and it says, "For there shall be a day," this is verse 6, "when the watchman will cry on Mount Ephraim, Arise, and let us go up to Zion, to the Lord our God." Now that's what he would sing. He would sing that out, and then all the people would sing from Psalm 122, one of the songs of ascent. They would step into this square and they would say, "I was glad when they said unto me, Let us go into the house of the Lord. Our feet have been standing within your gates, O Jerusalem." Actually, that verse comes in a little bit later. But a processional starts off.
Well, let's mention right now, before we go any farther, the Psalms of Ascent.
Okay.
These were specific psalms that people would say on their way up to Jerusalem. That's right. You always refer to going up to Jerusalem.
Because Jerusalem's the capital of the universe. That's where the throne of God is.
But you're making some type of an ascension as you
Right.
go.
It's called Aliyah.
That's right. And there are several psalms that are going to be associated with the trail. Now, these pilgrimages, let's just, for example, say, I mentioned in the last program, we were talking about Chorazin, the town of Chorazin. Chorazin is up in the up north of the Sea of Galilee.
It's northwest of the Sea of Galilee.
All right.
A short distance.
So coming from there, they've got to go south, and they've also got to go east, traveling around the Sea of Galilee.
Actually, they go across the Sea of Galilee, usually from that area, by boats. Literally by boats. That's why that Yeshua had gone across and came to the land of the Gadarenes, because the eastern bank was occupied by Gentiles.
Okay, so they're going to cross the Sea of Galilee.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the sea is going to be a lower level.
Oh, that's
Okay,
right.
that's right. And they're going to go south, which gets even lower in altitude.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then they have to make their way over mountains, and usually they would go through these geographically cut trails known as wadis, dried up riverbeds, sort of like a God-made trail, so to speak. But they would follow these trails, winding through the mountains and climbing as they were going. So this was no small journey, but it was one they did 3 times a year, sometimes much more often if they might have had business in Jerusalem as well. And so how long would a journey like this have taken place?
It wouldn't take them long. It'd take them about a week.
Okay, but in other words, it's not something you do in a few hours' time.
No. It's
going to be a several day. Right, it's a several day process, and of course, when you're traveling with these big baskets and with the bull and the flute player and all the people that are associated with the processional, it's going to be like a week long or several day camp out, so to speak.
Let me explain how they do this. They have in front of the processional as they start off, they're going to have a flute player going. And by the way, what he's going to be playing is the music to the Psalms of Ascent, the Psalms 120 through 135. And then behind him comes that district's bull. They're going to have a bull that they're going to offer as a sacrifice. Its horns have been gilded with either gold or silver. They have myrtle that's woven between his horns. And then behind him, you have the choir. Now the choir with all their musicians. So they're going to have lots of harps, the 2 types of harps. They're going to have more flutes.
Probably a few tambourines.
Oh, yeah, all of these things. And then you have the choir, and that's both men and women. And they will sing these psalms in, for instance, it's called antiphonal. Is that the term?
Antiphonal is when maybe one group will sing and another group answers back.
Okay, good. So I'll do this part, you do the second. And
that would be responsive, I think. Okay.
That's not antiphonal?
No, antiphonal usually I think is when you repeat the same thing, or you might have but basically it could be done either way. I know in the temple it was done both ways. And,
in the processions, what I've read is that there were antiphonal responses as they went. And then all the people come behind. Now the rich would have their fruits in gold bowls and silver bowls, and the not rich would have them in
like
wicker
or something
baskets,
like this.
and they would decorate these as they go
you said
down.
that they would have them that they have what in these baskets?
The Shiva Manim, the 7 species.
That's right. Now we mentioned these in the past couple of programs, but let's go ahead and mention them again. Okay, that's going to be, and like I said, I usually group these off into types of plants. Let's start with the only one that's a vine, and that would be the grapes. Okay, the fruit of the vine. Then we have several that come from trees. We have pomegranates, the dates from the date palm tree, figs, and did I say pomegranates? Olives. Olives were the other one I left out. So pomegranates, olives, figs, and dates from the date palm tree. Okay, so that's 5 of them, and then we have our 2 grains, barley and wheat. Okay,
now as they come down, they're to go slow, because they're to sing, to dance, and at every chance, the teachers, the rabbis, are to teach every scripture in the Bible that deals with these fruits of God and the ceremony of bringing them to the temple. Also, as they come, they come down the eastern side of the Jordan River, in present-day Jordan, cross over by Jericho, and then they come up the Wadi Kelt, and singing, and these songs would just fill these canyons. And as they get close to Jerusalem, they send a delegation ahead to say, the delegation from such and such a district has arrived. In the meantime, everybody puts on their best clothes, and they beautify their gifts to God, the baskets.
Well, now, this is the type of thing, of course, we cannot have a procession, but I mentioned that although it's impractical for a lot of families to do something like this, first of all, we can learn about it. How interesting would it be to have maybe a little group gathering or a party where people are dressed in biblical dress with their baskets and start to recite some of the Psalms of Ascent, and they are Psalms.
Yes.
What was the number again?
Psalms 120 through 135.
Okay. Another thing is, I had done this several years ago, making biblical costumes. Of course, there are a lot of patterns, and people can just rig up something. But I found out several years ago, I went to a hotel sale. They were selling off a bunch of their old stuff, and they had they had king-size pillowcases. Oh, so maybe 4 for $1, or
So you could make something for small kids pretty easy.
Well, basically, what I did is I took the pillowcases and cut out a little notch for the neck,
Sure.
and cut off a little place and a little slit in the back, and we could dye them, we could decorate them and something, but they were perfect for children. It's a perfect size for children. Now, I don't recommend that people go out there and buy brand new pillowcases to do this, but if they happen to have something kind of old, or if they happen
check the hospitals.
that's
or
right,
whatever.
they might check a place
Sure.
if they have to have something, say, for a group of children in a Bible study or something like that.
Let me go just a tiny bit further. The people come, as they come inside the walls of the city, then they say another verse from Psalm 122. Our feet have been standing within your gates, O Jerusalem. And that's a special, special verse. Then they'll go up to the temple, and they're going to be singing the Psalms of Ascent as they go up. And they take these, and they put them on their shoulder. And they carry them on the shoulder, and then they take them off, and they place them by the altar. These fruits, by the way, are going to go to the Kohanim, the priest. And so it's a tremendous ceremony.
Big party takes place that day, right?
That's right.
Well, now I was looking through one of my favorite books. I've used these quite a bit on this program. There's a set of the Jewish Kids Catalog book. This one particularly is the Kids Catalog of Jewish Holidays. I've gotten a lot of ideas from some of these books, and this book on page 252 has an idea specifically for Shavuot. I know you can't see this very well off the television, but it gives an idea of making some stained glass windows that are going to remind us of the 7 fruits, or the 7 species that we just mentioned. Let me show a finished product of 2 of them. If I could get this over, and we can get this up. Might get you to help me with this. This top one, of course, is it's just made out of black construction paper, and we've cut out holes to look like grapes and put some colored cellophane behind it to look like grapes. And then there's another one over here, let's see, on the other side. I get backwards on television. And this, of course, is the pomegranate, and I used 2 colors of cellophane on this one, using green for the leaves and the stem, and then sort of a reddish pink color for the pomegranate. So let me show very quickly how somebody might be able, on a shoestring budget, or with very little materials, or with very little time, be able to reproduce something like this.
You got these templates from this book.
Well, actually, I cheated. Because of the time issue, I got somebody to take the examples they give in the book and blow them up to a larger size. For example, you can see here's the one we did on the grapes. It came out looking like this with the outline, but we had each one of these blown up. Here's the grapes and the pomegranate. You see, and I had cut those out already, but I've got one here. What I've done is took some black construction paper, just plain old black construction paper. You can take a little bit harder cardboard and paint it black. You can use another color, of course, but I think the black really picks up the colors of the cellophane much better. Anyway, I taped my template or my pattern on top of it, and I took an X-Acto knife. Now, this is one thing you don't want to do with small children. You either need to cut it out yourself or make it in a bigger design and let them cut in the inside of the design and then work their way out with scissors. But the one I have here right now are figs, and I'm just going to trace around the outline. And the neat thing about something like this is it does not have to be perfect. It can be very, very elementary. And let's see if I can get around this fig real quick and show you how that just lifts out. And again, you don't want to trust children with an X-Acto knife because they are very, very sharp. Or they should be sharp anyway. And you can always kind of trim them a little bit. But children can cut them out with scissors if you draw the design. And you can, of course, draw them free-handed. I didn't, like I said, because of the time issue. But you can draw them on maybe with some either pencil and use it on the wrong side, or you can draw it with a type of chalk, which will erase very easily. And let me get one of these leaves cut out real quick. And again, you can use just one color, or you can use more than one color to show through on the other side, to have the cellophane in the back. And of course, in a window where the sun is shining through, this would really be nice where you could see the colors of the stained glass. And if I can just get this one leaf out, I have one leaf and one fig. And Joe, I'm going to ask you to look over there and hand me, let's say, the yellow cellophane. Let me just pull a little bit out, and I will remove this in just a second. Now, of course, when I was doing this before the program, it was all going a lot easier. But now it's going to be a little more difficult. But that's just kind of how life is, I think. Sometimes it doesn't work exactly the way you want it to, when you want it to work that way.
Yeah, Debbie, this book that you got this idea from is one of the books that they now have available here at Primetime.
Well, it's a book that I use. All of these little kids' catalog books are books that I use frequently.
And
they're an invaluable source of ideas, of food ideas, of craft ideas, of stories, of things you can do to celebrate the festivals, or, and in this case, it's not necessarily a way to celebrate it, but it's a way to learn about it, which is equally important. Now, I've got, of course, there's more to cut out here, which I'm not going to do, but let me remove the tape from this real quick, and we'll show you what part of this looks like so you can kind of get a sort of an in-between stage, as it were. Remove my template, and see I've got a stalk, one leaf, and a fig, and of course there would be, here is the template that I use. There's still a leaf and a fig that have not been cut out. But you take something like this, and let's say you use the yellow cellophane behind it, or like I said, you can get fancy and use more than one color. And I'll tell you what, Joe, if you can just hold this roll up like this.
Okay.
Hold it from down here.
all right.
There we go. Now let me kind of pull this up a little bit so that people can see the effect this is going to have.
Oh,
You
yeah.
put the white back, you can barely see the yellow. It's very, very pale, so you might want to use, say, 2 layers of it. But this is just an idea. Again, it's not something that is in celebration of Shavuot as much as it is to help learn about it and to help learn about the 7 species. And of course, all of these templates or examples can be found in this particular volume, this being the Kids Catalog of Jewish Holidays or Festivals. And like you said, that they are available here now, or we can certainly give them information on how they can get this book.
Well, they have opened up a bookstore here, and this is all of these little catalogs that are in print. They have available, so people can come down to Primetime and get them.
Well, now think how impressive this would be. If somebody maybe doesn't have a large fellowship they belong to, but they want to do something special for Shavuot, first thing they need to do is to learn about it, to read about it,
Yes.
to learn about the festival. And maybe they can organize a party, perhaps making blintzes or cheesecake, some type of a dairy food. We talked about cookies maybe that were dipped in honey or shaped in the Hebraic alphabet, something to remind them of Torah. We remember the anniversary of the Torah being given to the people. Also, they might want to have a little bit of a costume party involved and have people decorate baskets. But if you're going to decorate a basket, please be sure to use one of the Shiva Manim, or the 7 species. And repeat those again for me. I want to see how well you can rattle them all.
Okay, you have I'm going to do it backwards from you. You have the wheat and the barley. Mm-hmm. You have the grapes. You have the olives. You have the dates, the figs, and the pomegranates.
Very, very good. And by the way, all of these fruits are considered to be very, very special in terms of spiritual significance. For example, the pomegranate, has the many seeds. It reminds us of the Torah. It reminds us of the abundance. The grapes, of course, we're always talking about the grapes being made into wine and the spirituality involving grapes. Olives are used to produce oil. The dates produce honey. And, of course, the wheat, the barley would give us the staff of life,
Sure, that's the
bread of
grain.
life. And the figs were used quite a bit and in abundance in biblical times. I don't know about very much spiritual significance, but, the others you could very easily draw some type of...
Fig tree is symbolic of Israel.
Why didn't I think of that? That's right.
From the book of Hosea.
That's right.
One thing that might mention is that it's customary to decorate your houses with a lot of greenery and flowers.
As a matter of fact, the same volume that I took the stained glass windows out of has on the very next page how to make some flowers out of egg cartons. And of course, we had last year made some tissue flowers, but you want to make flowers, do something decorative in your home, but you also want to bring in some live greenery, a lot of live plants and flowers. We actually kind of reproduced a paper mache group of grapes in a program a couple of weeks ago. So there are a lot of things we can do to celebrate, but sometimes it's not just the celebration we need, it's the learning experience. And so I would really encourage everyone out there to learn more about the festival of Shavuot and things that you can do with your children or maybe with other loved ones or maybe even in group participation in a study group to learn more about the Torah, the giving of the Torah, the anniversary of it, and of bringing the first fruits in our lives. You know, we've said before that we are a Mishpachah, we are a family, but all of us together are all in the same family in the kingdom of God. Shalom.